feel like it really fully
The moon-
explored it, or it leads me to something else.
The Moonflower portfolio, the gelatin silver on the website, that was why I stopped. I got sick and tired of it. That was a lot of fun. There was the moonflowers, which are basically weeds in the west, and Jimson, Datura, yeah. And the cool thing with that was I figured out that and I always planted them because I liked them. They're night blooming, and so you go to Home Depot and you buy a whole bunch of lights. This is with gelatin silver, so we can, and those were all shot with 4x5 film with lights and cables at night, and people would come out of their houses and look, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun, and I did that for about 2 years, 2 summers. And I said, I can't see anything new. I can't see anything new in the viewfinder that I haven't done before. There might be something there, but I'm not seeing it yet. And I'm not going to take a week off or a year off to wait for that to come to me. Done. Same thing with the gloves. Now, in terms of selling, the next project I'm going to work on, well, the project for the summer is to figure out the 20 by 24 camera. Good luck, Robert. And we just make mistakes after mistakes until it finally kind of sinks in. That's the only way to do it. Haven't really thought about a project to do with that size because it's going to be a long learning curve. And I'm not going to get frustrated trying to do a project and not be able to go through or make a good play. But in the winter, I can photograph, as I mentioned, indoors. And the one I've been kicking around in my head, when we talk about the 1930s and so forth, of this old my grandmom's stuff, and I think they make interesting still lifes. I don't know if anybody else does. So I've got so many vases from New Jersey that you could open a store, and they're not very big, small. So I like still lifes. I'm going to do more fruit and flowers, vases, but I've got a ton of old photographs, not necessarily from my family, but from another family, not at the early 1900s. And the title of and this one won't be an installation because I'll be able to sell each one of these individually if anybody wants to buy one. The project is called The Dead. And instead of making just a still life, I'm going to make a still life, and then I'm going to insert a photograph of a person. It could be 1920s, 30s, could be more recent. But the title of the piece is The Dead. So we're going to get a sense of an understanding for the viewer that the images, the photographs in my still life, and I'm going to try ambrotypes, make the ambrotypes, that they're departed, they're deceased. And I got this idea from, I don't know where I was looking, read something about this was the quote, I can't even give you the context. There was a playwright, no, a novelist. I have the name of the novelist, I have the novel. I have to read it, or just to get the whole sense of what's going on. Basically, it's this. Involved in the novel is a mountain climbing group. Go up the mountain. An accident happens. One of the men falls. They're not on the line or whatever, and they fall, boom, down. And he's dead. Well, they finish the climb, the winter comes and so forth, and we'll try to attend to this person next year or whatever. They go back, and they can't find the body or something, and then suddenly they do. And the line in the novel is, the dead have a way of coming back to us. The dead have a way of coming back to us. So there's the body of the fall. And I thought, yeah, that's what pictures do. That's what pictures do. So even if it was, yeah, so that's the deal. And so they will be individual 8x10 ambrotypes. So yeah, I could sell those because they're not a installation as such.
You're not going to do 72 dead?
What? No, I'm going to have
I'm
fun.
one living.
I'm going to have fun
Yeah.
this year. I decapitated
that.
squirrels in my backyard with this thing. Because here's the development, no, that's another lousy one. Whee! And I was just wing, the like squirrels are being decapitated. Birds with one wing, they didn't go in the backyard. They see me and they wouldn't go in the backyard.
Sounds like you got some photographic material.
I have a tin that he sent me of a dead bird put up on a nail of his shed.
I like that.
I do too.
I like that plate.
I'm hearing altars. I'm hearing person, vases, you're setting up altars.
Excuse me, sir. Sure. You're bleeding from your arm a little bit.
Oh my goodness. Oh, thank you very much.
I know.
Thank you so much.
Please
Bleed in front of everybody.
get some more refreshments too, folks. And if you want to get, well, you've got your drink there. I want a picture of you and Kyle next to each other with holding your big gigantic mugs.
Nice.
Isn't there big gigantic? I know, I was looking at the photography thing, that they've got these big gigantic drinking mugs.
That's great.
Why don't, why carry a thermos?
Yeah.
The thermos is here.
That's right.
And it's rude to drink out of the thermos.
That's how I do it.
So that's what I do, and we drink out of that. But nobody wants
When
to.
you showed us the images of the
Bubba
still
cake.
lifes, the flowers you did, and you
Yeah.
talked about having the sliding doors.
Just
the
Yeah.
light.
Yeah,
Did you one day just kind of go, oh, I really like that light coming through, and therefore I want to have something bathed in that light?
Sure,
Or-
sure. I'm looking for, the only thing photographers have to work with is light, and that which the light bounces off of. And then you start to get into the gradations of the kinds of light that are appealing to you. And harsh light is appealing to me. And second, I said, I can't spend all winter not photographing. I'm trying to do something. So where in the house can I possibly do that? And I said, starting around 1st of March, a couple hours a day. And that's a short time, so.
Doesn't need your coffee.
Yeah, I need my coffee. I have to make more coffee.
Well, that was the thing, I remember my very first photography class I took in college. One of the first things the instructor said was, photography is all about light. And it was just like, oh, you know, just that one thing he said kind of just made things click. you
Yeah.
know, in terms of what you're playing with and thinking about.
Yeah. You want for the ingenue, and you want the light coming on in the front, and soft lenses and filters. That's cheating a bit, but and then for the 60-year-old sea captain with the craggly face, you want the light coming across his face. Just sell the picture, sell what you're trying to say.
You guys have all been so quiet and dominating the conversation here. Do you have questions?
I got a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for
You
it.
probably answered this before in the workshop or somewhere, but why mitten, or why gloves in one mitten? You know, like why 41 gloves in one mitten? Is there a story behind it?
No.
No?
Next question. I wanted more gloves, but I couldn't get it to work. I mean, I did the project for like 2.5 years, and that's moving along. And I was just getting more and more frustrated, the chemistry wasn't working, and I just said I had to stop. So how many gloves that I photographed that I was happy with? And that turned out to be 41. And that mitten is just pure luck. I had no idea that there was going to be. Bill and other friends would send me boxes of gloves. You know, found this on the right side of the road. Hey, Robert, what about this? I said, thank you. And I just kept collecting over several years. I said, okay, this is the year. We're going to start this project. And then I had to figure out how to put cardboard into the fingers so the glove doesn't fall down and stand up. So that would solve. I'm going to use the 11 by 14 camera. I'm going to shoot in the driveway. I'm going to shoot under a sheet. I gotta piece all these things together, because once I get started, I want a kind of continuity with it. And so I said, okay, that's gonna work. And then started. And I just picked the glove and I put the cardboard in the fingers and mounted it up so I could photograph it. And I started shooting and started shooting and started shooting. And then the winter came, and the next year I continued on, started shooting. And we finally, I guess, wound up with 41 gloves in that darn mitten. And that's the punch, that's the kicker. Because imagine if it was 42 gloves, who cares? That's the one you want. And I also think you know, if there's a mitten in there, hopefully I can see people, where's the damn mitten? Where's the damn mitten? It's gotta be in there somewhere. And I think that's cool too. But that's how that all came together. There was no finished number of 42. The mitten is purely luck. I just serendipity stopped at 41 gloves and threw them in to make it 42 and call it a day. And that's basically how it
But
went.
why gloves?
Why gloves?
They're cool.
Gloves are cool. They're free. They're on. I just always. Let me tell you a story. A friend of mine lives in Brooklyn, and he wears Red Wing boots. These are Red Wing boots, but his are big, high top boots, 8-inch tops or something. Huge, thick sole on them. Has had them for years, right? And they're worn within an inch of his life. He's not a logger, but he just likes to wear them. They must be 8 or 9 years old. They may have been resold, I don't know. But they are well worn, and they're his, and he likes them. He takes great care of them. He polishes them up and keeps them clean. This is Brooklyn, New York now, home of the hipsters. So, my friend is not a hipster. So he's in a bar one night, and he's sitting there having some drinks with his friends, and the waitress comes over and says, "Wow, those boots are really cool." And he said, "Well, thank you." Did you break them in yourself? Or did you buy them that way? He said, I broke them in myself. Crazy! Why would somebody ask that question? They're his shoes. But in Brooklyn, in hipsterland, you bet there's a store that would sell distressed boots. So you could buy them, and the guy that wore them out for 10 years, he's no longer in the picture, but there you are walking down. Look at my cool shoes, look at my cool shoes. Well, that's bullshit, that's crazy, that's nutty. So these gloves have a hard-won history to me. When I look at them, I see a history that somehow someone worked them to such a degree that they wind up looking like that. And they're discarded for a reason. There's no protection, they're ripped. You know, where the holes are, and that's probably, obviously, where a lot of the wear was. And he wants, on that glove, to protect his fingers. He can't wear that one, so he throws it away. It's another glove that's covered, and now he can go about his work. What work was that? I don't know. Does that have to do with rope, or chains, or whatnot? Was he just a gardener? These, the cloth gloves were, what was that? That looks like cement work that I used. You're not supposed to put your hand on cement when you're moving it around, so I had a little cement job on the sidewalk or something, so instead of using my bare hand, I put on the cloth glove and kind of smoothed it out, trowel it out, and then moved it around a little bit. What are the stories behind the gloves? That was always what was in my mind. It made sense to me, so it better make sense to the world. I don't care. It made sense to me. Yeah, you do what makes sense to you.
You know, even with all like the personality in the gloves and all like the material and frustration that you went through, even though like you said these 42 gloves or 42 pictures were your favorite, like what one out of these 42 do you like the most? You know, like what one?
No,
What
there's,
one kind of represents you?
no, there's not one. I was anticipating that question.
Glad I'm the one that asked.
No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 top. That's on the poster, I think, right? That was one of my weight gloves in another life when I was lifting weights. And I just thought that was just great. That is just, pardon the expression, caked sweat. And I used it, and I think what happened was I used the glove and did continue on, and the glove was wet with perspiration and so forth, and somehow it got flattened, you know, in the storage, and 2 or 3 years later when I found it, that's what it was. It's flat as a pancake. Yeah, I didn't have to use any cardboard in the fingers. So the top row, that one, I like the shape of that glove here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. See how that glove is almost bitten away on the right side? I just like that shape. This guy here is a favorite. You see that mistake, that drip? It looks like a drop of something. I said, oh no, that's gotta stay. I mean, that's a mistake, but it's gotta stay. Because it almost looks like the glove is crying or bleeding or something. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in from the top. I like that one too. That's just a cloth glove. Maybe it's just the angle that it wound up being photographed at. The mitten, of course, is a favorite, and the one to the left of the mitten. I think I cheated on that one. You can see that there's a similar glove, there's a similar work glove that's used pretty universal. So there's many incarnations, renditions of that. I think because of that, I said I have to do something special. I might have for that glove. I think I did. I had the cardboard in, I had the back on. I think I sprayed it with water. And then I flipped it over, and I went over to the garden and I ground it into the soil. Okay? So the soil would stick to the water of the glove, and just carefully put it up. I think that's where all those granules come from, and it worked. I like the little child's glove. I think that's a nice little change. And when I arranged them, I wanted to put that guy in between 2 big gloves. And there's some, if you notice, there's the other glove to the weightlifting glove underneath the top. When you write a series of, when you write a chapbook of poems, or a book of poems, you have to find out what are you going to write? What poem comes first? What comes second? What comes third? There's a reason that the poet makes those orders. That's one of the hardest things for me to do, to find out what comes first and what comes second. Once I had them all done, I said, what goes first? And that took a long time. It took about a week. I tried different things because I didn't have any ideas. I didn't know what was going to be first, second, or third. I didn't have any ideas on what would be the first third or the middle or the last of the show. So that took a lot of just, things started, then once I got a little ways into it, it started to flow a little bit. And I originally thought I wanted one glove to be this way and the next glove to be that way, or the thumb this way, that way, that way. But that, I didn't have that enough to do that. Lightness and darkness, that worked a bit. So yeah, that's how they came to be ordered. But yeah, those are my favorites, sure. You always have favorites.
I have a question.
Sure.
At what age did you get into photography?
21. I'm 66 now, 21. That was after college and the photo 101. The start. Then when I moved to Michigan in '77, I hooked up with a terrific darkroom photographer, and I apprenticed myself with him, so he was my teacher. That's how I learned the nitty-gritty.
Do you do like the formal photography? Like, do you do a formal photography, like, you know, portraiture or things like that?
Just fine art.
Just fine art?
And fine art photography means stuff that people won't buy. Just kidding. Just
You know,
kidding.
what you might not know is Robert shared with us in the workshop, he was an English major. So this was not even his major in college.
So I'm starting to think too, and I don't, this thing I have, in the gelatin silver on the website, those are done in portfolios of 12 images. There's 12 images of the grain elevators, 12 images of the moonflowers, 12 images of New York, blah, blah. So these are all the gelatin silver pictures I've made over the years, and I wanted to consolidate and try to make a sense of what I have accomplished, if anything, to put them into order. And I started, and I just said, I'm going to make them 12 photographs in a portfolio. Done, finished, boom. These are my best New York, my best moonflowers, my best whatever. Done with that. And then I started doing wet plate. I started moving away from gelatin silver, moving to wet plate. But why this penchant for portfolios? And why this penchant for installations? Where'd that come from? And I think it came from writing. I think it came from writing chapters or writing poems. I've always said that photography is kind of, photographs are kind of poems, visual poems. And that good ones elicit response and imagination, and how did that come to be? Well, then you make up your own poem, you make up your own writing, part of it. Doesn't have to be the official story. Who cares?
Yeah, I have a different hypothesis. It has to do with this complete and total irrational desire for completeness. There's got to be a complete.
A beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah. And so 12 here, it starts and it ends. 41 here, it starts and it ends.
Yeah.
And so there is this desire, and I would suggest it's completely and totally irrational because there is no such thing as a beginning or an end. But it is that kind of, you need this completeness. There's this desire, and a lot of people have it. You know, this is perhaps one of the reasons why they want capital punishment. There's got to be some closure. You know, this idea of completeness.
I hear you. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, we probably did wrong too.
No, there's got to be an explanation, and I don't know.
You know, David and I talked about how in our day, when we said slides, a slide page was 20. So everything was done as a series of 20, because that's what the slide pages were.
Right. No, there's no fixed number.
No.
I just, the gelatin stuff is just,
Actually, weren't there rolls of film that were in 12 negatives in a roll?
yeah.
That was,
That was for the 2 1/4. It was 12.
Yeah,
Yeah.
12 images. There's also 220.
was it 20?
It wasn't 20.
Yeah, it was
36, yeah.
I thought it was like 24.
There's 24.
I thought it was 24, yeah,
Yeah, 24, 36.
yeah.
And then for the wedding photographers or the Hasselblad people, they made 220.
Oh, yes.
So instead of 12 images on a roll, you have 24.
Yeah.
So this would keep you in the flow of moving and taking lots of pictures and change the back, and you wouldn't have to change film so much.
Right.
But that was, I don't know, wedding photographers. But
So I'm guessing there's no process that you can bring out the gelatin or use a plate? It always has to just be It's to the squirrels and the birds.
These are all collodion pictures. The way you would see this advertised or displayed is collodion emulsion on aluminum.
Right.
Collodion emulsion on aluminum, not a tintype. If it was a true tintype, it would just say tintype. And there are men and women making tintypes today. So there's a difference. So if you see collodion emulsion on aluminum, you know that Robert's using aluminum, or the photographer's using aluminum. If you see tintype, now, tintype is soft milled steel that has to be japanned on both sides. You flow the plate with more asphaltium, but a different concoction of it. And then you bake it. You bake it in an oven. And they're one of the best ways to do it for plates to a certain size, of course, never mind, is an Amish oven. It's a little oven deal, and you buy them. And it sits on a Cabela stand that has 2 burners on it. That's how you're supposed to bake your bread and so forth. But you use that oven because once this asphaltium gets in there, you ain't putting any food in there yet. And that asphaltium solution gets baked 3 times. Bake it, take it out, cool it, flow it, bake it, bake it, bake it. Now you've got the tin ready. To answer your question, if I make an exposure and I just blow it and it's wrong, I can wipe off that collodion emulsion on the tintype, clean it off, put it back in the pile where things are going to be resurfaced and baked. Just have to do it once. I can save that plate. I can't do that with aluminum. It won't work. I can't scrape it off, clean it, and reuse the aluminum. Don't know why.
So after like all these years, like what's your, whether it's like working with wet plates or tin or aluminum, like what's your favorite method of that?
The collodion right now.
Is it-
Yeah.
Right now, does it change a lot?
The only thing that could possibly get me is a daguerreotype, but I don't know whether I'll go there. There's too much for me to do in collodion to figure out yet. Not learned
What
yet.
if it's human mercury?
Well, they're all done in labs, and I don't know how they do it outside.
Okay.
But Spagnola has they all use a darkroom laboratory and a chemical hood. Okay, so the hood slides up and down, and it vents everything. So there's no breathing mercury fumes, but.
Oh, you just have to check the ground. Like a coal plant.
You're still throwing those out there.
You'd have a new Breaking Bad show. He said that first.
I remember, you had your cameras, they were making the Japan steel for you in the 19th century. People tried to make their own collodion, blew the place up. That was a disaster. But you could buy that. You know, like we buy film, you could buy the black plates that were Japan. I'm just trying to think of what services were, you know, because this was an industry, and there were industries supplying photographers what they would supply, just like we buy supplies today.
I imagine if you went back to an old Sears Roebuck catalog, you'd find a bunch.
Starter kits.
Yeah, I know they sold cameras,
Yeah.
old brownies.
Yeah.
And probably even before that, but although I don't know. It may have been too scientific prior to the mass market.
You know they sold houses?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and they sold forms where you could get your own cement blocks.
Before they had disposable cameras.
How are we doing on that food?
Brownie.
We have lots of cookies over here.
Yeah.
I'm
Y'all
making
have
my
to eat more cookies or
Somebody
turkey.
please.
I'll take that one.